even add in a but, he'll remind you.
It's like
You added a
theater.
button. What?
That's like theater.
It is like theater. It totally was like theater. And I wanted to ask you about your experience in theater too.
Sure.
Because you're so good. I was
You're so sweet.
well, you're so good.
It's like my only actor friend that actually came to see the play.
They paid me too.
Sure. She's the only one who came to see me in Lobby Hero.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, what the hell was it called? That's right, Lobby Hero. You were great in that play.
Thank you.
You were so nervous before you did it.
Terrified, almost terrified more in the rehearsal process, just because it's a new medium and I'm surrounded by people in the show who no one else was new. I was the only new one there. And I think I was going to try and find a new way of doing what we do. After a while, the process of filmmaking doesn't get stale. You just want to try and find a new way into what has become very familiar. And I think what I was hunting for was that kind of prolonged period of time within a scene, as opposed to the, action cut. Thinking that it would allow this kind of liberation and freedom to kind of let subtext really take over the moment. And it truly couldn't have been more the contrary. When you're on stage, it's like, your hair inside, you're just like, ah! Because you have so much to remember.
It didn't feel like that watching you though.
Well,
you were in the pocket. And I'm curious because you obviously with the Marvel stuff, and we've worked together like 1,500 times at this point, not just even on the Marvel stuff, but we've done a lot of other stuff together. And I think mostly everything that I've done with you are those 2 takes, whatever, a few takes and moving on, and the schedule is packed and whatever. And so I'm curious, how did you find the relentless schedule and having to 8 shows a week, keep digging in? Did you find it tedious? Did you find it liberating?
A lot of people told me, you're going to have so much time, you just got to go to the theater in the afternoon, you got your whole days. I didn't find that at all.
No.
I got off stage, you're emotionally drained, you're physically exhausted. I just wanted to go to bed. And then before you know it, you're right back at the theater. I think, and I think this really is where it comes down to subjectivity and personal preference, but I played a villain, and within the play, Michael Cera, who's in the show with me, is kind of the moral compass, and certainly the one that you identify with as an audience member in terms of what would you do in the scenario. So as he navigates these ebbs and flows, when he would go through things, you could hear the audience, and these bonds are formed, of common, humanity. My impact on the audience was people identifying me as the person in their life that they despise. And, if I'm doing my job well, they hate me, which is fine. But I think to get up every day and find the motivation to go to the theater and do it, I think the next time I get on stage, selfishly, I'll want just a few moments where I can find that sweet, sympathetic connection with the audience that isn't just representing the worst parts of their personal experience. You know what I mean?
Because you place, iconically such a likable person
Well,
that I would find, I think we all know who I'm talking about, that I think I would imagine that would be kind of...
That was the appeal.
Right.
That's why I couldn't wait to do it. Well, it was fun, but then, by month 2, you're like, man, it's tough to go and just feel this hate from the audience. Again, that means you're doing your job well, but it's not going to not take its toll, and you're not going to not take some of this home with you, not to use double negatives twice, but it just, I think theater is such a wonderful exchange. It really is. I forget who used this analogy, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it really is like building little sandcastles every night that the audience or the ocean just comes and takes, and then you build another one tomorrow. And that's a beautiful and tangible, fleeting part of creativity. And I think what keeps you motivated to come back has to be part of that exchange. And my whole exchange was just predicated on just loathing. And I think it started to get taxing.
But I feel like when you work, you have to, no matter who you're playing, you need to find some empathy for. Could you find empathy for that person?
You know what? Every actor says that's like, acting school stuff. You never judge the characters you play. If you judge the characters you play, you're not going to play them real. So you never, no villain thinks they're the villain. But you know, when they start calling
like
things out,
you.
oh, this fucking guy. Like, oh, sorry, I can't say swears. But a couple times, you know, and you take a little bit of, I had a drama teacher in high school who told me he saw a performance of Othello somewhere in Texas in the 70s. And someone in the audience stood up and shot Iago, shot him. And he survived, but in the hospital said it was the most, you know, the greatest compliment he'd ever received. So getting those reactions from the audience it shows you're doing your job well, but just on a really personal, intimate note, it's so liberating and wonderful to be on a stage, but you really do long for that kind of shared emotional conflict that we all go through. And my character was so detached from any sort of morality. I don't think he, as a character, even found that connection at home with his family. So that channel felt a little shut down. And like I said, over time, it just starts to feel, it weighs on you.